Final strike on Iran. United States downs secret jet carrying Tehran's top leaders.
At 9:42 p.m. local time, the runway lights snapped on at a restricted airfield outside Tehran. Engines were already hot. A large private jet controlled by the Iranian state began to roll. Speed climbed past 120 knots. Nose pointed north. A departure path filed toward Moscow. This was not a routine flight. It was a rush to leave. Across the region, United States screens tracked the movement in real time. The aircraft did not slow. It did not turn back. Instead of standing down, it kept accelerating into protected airspace. That single choice drew a clear line. United States on one side, Iran's top leadership on the other. Warnings tightened. Authorization windows narrowed. A final check confirmed the purpose of the flight and the timing. Distance closed fast. The moment demanded an immediate decision. Not hours, not minutes, seconds. This was not a navigation mistake. It was a calculated move to escape accountability, and it revealed a dangerous misread of resolve. Tehran believed it still had room to maneuver. It did not. If you want to follow this confrontation as it unfolds, subscribe now. This moment matters because it did not happen in open skies or far from control. It happened near Tehran, inside airspace where every radar is active all day and all night. That location tells us the intent. This was not confusion. This was planning. For Iran's leadership, leaving from this point meant speed and protection. It meant getting out before pressure closed in. Weeks of protest had filled the streets. Security forces responded with heavy force. Deaths rose. Phones went dark. Internet access failed. Inside the country, control looked strong. Outside, confidence was fading. For the United States, the signal was different. A leadership team preparing to leave during a crackdown is not stabilizing a crisis. It is avoiding it. That changes how the situation is judged. When a government uses live fire against its own people, the issue does not stay local. It becomes international responsibility. There is also a military reason this mattered. This airspace sits near routes watched by multiple partners. Any sudden departure risks chain reactions. One wrong assumption could pull others in. Stopping the flight removed that risk in a single move. And there is a human layer. For people on the ground, this was not about jets or runways. It was about whether those giving the orders would face consequences. When the exit closed, the message was simple and clear. Decisions made on the streets cannot be left behind at 30,000 feet. This is why the event changed the stakes. It turned pressure into commitment and warnings into action. Detection came first. Then a pause that felt longer than it really was. On a United States monitoring screen, the aircraft symbol shifted color. It moved from routine traffic to a priority track. A technician leaned closer to the display. The speed number kept climbing. The heading stayed locked north. No deviation. No hesitation. Every data point confirmed the same thing. This aircraft was not slowing down. Inside the command loop, voices stayed calm and controlled. No one raised their tone. This was not the moment for discussion. The data matched the intelligence reports received hours earlier. The timing matched the warnings already sent through diplomatic channels. This was not a civilian flight. It was state-controlled, protected, and moving with urgency. One operator watched the distance counter drop second by second. Another confirmed airspace clearance levels. A third verified the final engagement rules. Each action took only moments, but each was deliberate. Nobody rushed. In situations like this, rushing creates mistakes, and mistakes cost lives. Near Tehran, nothing looked unusual from the ground. The jet continued along its departure path. Engine steady. Climb profile unchanged. Inside the cockpit, the crew likely believed the window to escape was still open. That belief shaped their final decision to continue forward. At the control station, a hand moved toward a panel. It was a small motion. 2 fingers. 1 press. The action itself lasted less than a second, but the weight of it was clear to everyone in the room. The response was immediate and precise. There was no warning call, no last signal. The decision had already been made when the aircraft ignored every chance to slow, turn, or abort. In confrontations like this, the first clear defiance defines the response. Across the system, confirmation tones followed, screens refreshed, the track vanished. This was the first direct action between the two sides in this stage of the crisis. It sent a clear message. When Iran pushed forward, the United States did not hesitate. It responded fast, clean, and on its own terms. If you think this move stopped a wider crisis before it exploded, press 1. If you believe it pushed both sides closer to open war, press 9. And subscribe to stay with us as this story continues. For several seconds after the track disappeared, no one spoke. No cheers. No reactions. Just quiet breathing and the low hum of equipment. Then the next phase began. Across monitoring centers, analysts immediately looked outward. When one move happens, the next risk is reaction. Screens shifted from the airfield to regional airspace. Radar coverage expanded. Naval and air assets across the region were placed on higher alert. This is how escalation starts, not with noise, but with preparation. In close confrontations, small margins matter. A few miles, a few seconds, a single wrong assumption. Every system now worked to prevent misreading the moment. The goal was not to provoke, but to control what followed. Even a 5-degree course change by the wrong aircraft could turn tension into disaster. Back near Tehran, the absence was louder than any explosion. The flight that was supposed to leave never arrived. Phones rang inside government buildings. Orders were repeated. Some were changed. Others were canceled entirely. Confusion spreads faster than fire when a plan collapses without warning. No sound but the city at night. No official statement yet. No explanation. Inside United States command channels, the focus stayed narrow and disciplined. Watch for retaliation. Watch for rushed moves. History shows that after a shock like this, the most dangerous actions come from panic, not planning. Military aircraft adjusted patrol routes. Not aggressive, just visible. Naval crews were told to expect extended shifts. Fatigue becomes its own threat when tension lasts too long, and leaders know a tired crew makes slower decisions. Then the political layer began to move. Draft statements circulated between agencies. Each word mattered. Say too much, and you inflame the moment. Say too little, and you invite the other side to test again. The balance was thin and unforgiving. This was no longer just about a jet. It was about credibility. One side had shown it would act without hesitation. The other now had to decide whether to absorb the message or respond to it. The ocean stayed calm. The sky stayed dark. But the pressure did not ease. It tightened. Because escalation does not always arrive with fire. Sometimes it arrives with silence, while everyone watches everyone else, knowing the next move could come without warning. What no one outside a small circle knew at that moment was this. The destroyed flight was not the only plan. Iran's leadership had prepared alternatives, secondary routes, backup aircraft, quiet ground movements meant to scatter attention and buy time. The idea was simple. If one path closed, another would open. Confusion was supposed to be their shield, but the twist came from timing. The flight did not move late. It moved too early. That early movement confirmed fear inside the regime. It exposed urgency, and urgency removes doubt. For United States analysts, that was the final piece. This was not routine relocation. This was escape under pressure. What also failed was deception. A secondary signal appeared briefly on regional sensors, meant to pull attention away. It worked for seconds. Then it vanished. The real movement had already been identified. The decoy came too late to matter. Inside Tehran, the impact spread fast. Not publicly, but internally. Messages moved through secure channels. Meetings were canceled mid-sentence. Orders lost clarity. When leaders prepare to leave and cannot, trust fractures instantly. The crews on the ground did not know the full picture yet. They only knew the departure was gone. The window had closed. And no replacement order followed. This is where suspense deepened. Because the shock was not just the loss of the aircraft. It was the realization that every remaining option was now visible, watched, measured. The leadership still inside the country did not know what the next move would be. They only knew something worse than force had arrived. They had been read correctly. And once that happens, every future decision becomes slower, heavier, and more dangerous. The confirmation reached Washington fast, not through headlines, not through leaks, but through secured channels that do not ring twice. Inside the Pentagon, no one celebrated. No one relaxed. They turned their attention outward because after a shock like this, the real danger is never the strike itself. It is the reaction that may follow. Air crews checked fuel levels again. Pilots adjusted routes by small degrees. 5 degrees can matter when tension is high and nerves are tight. On the water, ships held steady speed, no sudden turns, no aggressive signals. Control was the objective, not intimidation. A short radio line cut through the quiet. Maintain posture. Do not escalate. 2 seconds later, another voice replied, "Copy." Holding. Back near Tehran, the night stayed dark. No blast echoes, no sirens tied to the event, just a flight that never arrived and a silence that raised more questions than noise ever could. Inside government buildings, lights stayed on, phones kept ringing. Answers came slowly, if at all. Confusion does not announce itself. It spreads quietly, desk by desk, room by room. At the White House, the public message was shaped with care. The words were plain and direct. This action, it said, was not aimed at the Iranian people. It was aimed at the leadership that ordered force against its own streets. The line was drawn there, clearly and deliberately. Inside command rooms, screens showed the wider picture. Borders, routes, distances measured in miles. One decision had tightened every calculation across the region. Allies watched closely. Rivals did the same. Everyone was measuring resolve, not rhetoric. Another radio call came in. Lower this time. Any movement? Negative. All quiet. Silence stretched. 3 seconds, then 5, then 10. No response from the other side. No sudden launch. No rushed mistake. That absence mattered more than any explosion. This was the true peak of the moment. Not fire, not chaos, but restraint under pressure. Proof that the strike was intentional, controlled, and ready to be held if tested. The crisis had reached its highest point so far. The action was complete. The message was delivered. And now the most dangerous question remained unanswered. Would Iran respond immediately, or would it wait and choose a different, slower, and possibly more dangerous path? By morning, the outcome was clear. The flight never left. The leadership did not escape, and the region adjusted almost instantly. Statements came out of Tehran accusing the United States of violating international law. Washington rejected the claim within minutes. The response was direct. A government that fires on its own streets does not get to hide behind legal language. Inside Iran, the impact was not public at first. It was internal. Schedules changed. Security tightened. Travel plans vanished. When a leadership loses the option to leave, every decision becomes heavier. That pressure does not fade. It compounds. Across the region, signs followed. Commercial airlines began canceling routes. Insurance rates spiked. Military transport traffic increased quietly, not as a show of force, but as preparation. These are the signals that matter. They do not appear on television banners, but they shape what comes next. Then came the political ripple. Israel made its position unmistakable. It would act in its own interest if required, with or without approval. That statement changed calculations in every capital watching. It did not promise action, it removed doubt. For Washington, the message stayed consistent. The action was not against the Iranian people. It was against the leadership that chose force over restraint. That distinction matters. It shapes alliances. It shapes how far this can go. But the most important effect was psychological. The idea that leaders could escape a crisis they created was removed. When exits close, accountability moves forward. History shows that moments like this do not end conflicts. They redefine them. The region did not calm down, it recalibrated. Everyone began watching for the next signal. A speech, a launch, a silence that lasts too long. In crises like this, waiting can be as dangerous as acting. This event was not the conclusion. It was the line that separated warning from consequence. The test has already happened. The response has been measured, and now every side knows something it did not know before. The next move may not come with alarms or countdowns. It may come quietly, without 10 seconds to decide. And when it does, the margin for error will be even smaller.